All right, everyone. Well, we are back this morning and we are very luckily joined by Raquel Pennington. So, firstly, Raquel, thank you very much for joining us today. Getting straight into it, Raquel, we know you grew up as an athlete playing many sports like basketball, softball, and many of the usual American sports. What eventually led you to pursue a career in mixed martial arts? Because obviously at the time in 2007, 2008, women's MMA didn't have the same popularity that it does today. So what led you down that martial arts path?
Honestly, I had a bunch of athletic scholarships and academic scholarships to college. And my senior year, I broke my back snowboarding. So I had to put my athletic scholarships aside. I took an academic scholarship to the university here in Colorado. And, honestly, I was just trying to get back in shape. I was going through rehab. My mom and I were at the gym. We were working out one night, and the first team I started with, they were in a little yoga studio in the back corner. They were training on the puzzle mats that are like half-inch thick, and that night was like judo and jujitsu, and so they're slamming each other, and then they're turning around and submitting each other, and it just looked really intense. And honestly, it was a joke. I told my mom, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do that." Because I grew up being a huge tomboy, but I never got into like all these crazy fights. The only fight I ever got into was my cousin, who's 5 months apart from me. And we were just like terrible with each other. Like we fought all the time. Everybody called us Chip and Dale. Do you guys know them? The little wrestling rangers.
Yeah.
So that's our nickname. And like we just constantly terrorized each other. But other than that, like I never fought, never did anything, never had a background of anything. And I think my mom at that time just thought it would be something good to get me going again, just because of the fact that like I was down and out, I mean, I had a huge setback. I was covering from a major injury. And so we talked to the coach, went in the next day. My first training session ever was sparring. And I'm a person who loves, for one, I love adrenaline rushes and I love challenges. And MMA offers that to the fullest. So I absolutely fell in love with it. And honestly, that's how it started. I fought my first fight 4 months later, and here I am 13 years later.
Wow. Raquel, look, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, because it's obviously been pretty big news, I suppose, the last 2 weeks with you and this whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, which makes me laugh. But I did read this bizarre story about your name getting brought up in the trial as, people who clearly don't do their research mistaken you for Amber Heard's friend, who was also called Raquel Pennington. You did receive quite a bit of hate, and from that bizarre scenario. Was it surprising to not only see fans but relatively popular news organizations also make that mistake as well?
I feel like that just shows the world that we live in. It's 2022, and like it's easy to Google something and find out. Like, come on, we have so many resources available to us. So, I put a tweet out there that was like, for you people so invested, because it's just like, if you're so invested, you would think you would have it together. But the people that are like so invested, but then they're talking crap to the wrong person, was just mind blowing. It shows how people just feed off of each other and jump onto the bandwagon of everything. It's the popular thing to do. And so everybody was kind of just doing that. And then, with media, like that's the problem with the world these days. They don't report the right things, and everything gets twisted and it gets blown up into bigger situations than what it is. And honestly, it's sad, but because I had no part in that, I just had fun with it. It got to a point that I was just like, all right, I'm honestly tired of hearing about this. And I think at one point, like, we started watching the trial, and it was just like, what is even going on in this? And parts that I watched, like, those girls made themselves look terrible. Like, it was just embarrassing. It was just like, this shouldn't even be a thing. But, it was just amazing to me how people being in that situation, and people, for one, not doing their homework, but for two, being able to jump on the computer and say the things that they were saying. It's just incredible how you can take the time out of your day to go talk so bad to another human being. And it's sad, really. Like, it kind of just breaks my heart, and it shows why the world is the way it is, why there's so much hatred and separation that's going on. And it's simple things like that. Like, people they immediately jump onto a resource that other people are accessible at, and they just go to town. But some of the stuff people were saying it was incredible. And I was just like, ow. And then, they were just so passionate. I was like, golly. And then, like I said, I mean, I had fun with it on some of them, because what else can I do? And then there was just some of it that was just like, you could tell people were just wanting to get attention and they knew the truth, but they were just saying things to say things. And so, and then the jokes that have come out of it with other people, it's been given their situation, what really happened with them, that sucks. But given the situation of being drugged into this and like the funny parts that come out of this, like you just got to make the best of it. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, for all you know, you've been living in Johnny Depp's penthouse rent-free for the last year. But,
Right.
Raquel, other than the growth of the fan base, which has been phenomenal for women's MMA, what has been the largest technical development in women's MMA since your beginning of the sport? Because from my perspective, the level of female MMA fighters has just continued to grow year on year.
Yeah, absolutely. For one, it's cool to see exactly where the sport has grown to. I remember when I first started, like there was a couple people that I rematched as an amateur because the competition wasn't there, and it's super male dominant sport. But to see like the level that we've grown to, all the women, all the girls who are even starting in the sport, like it's super exciting, and like just the equality that's coming about it. And I mean, you can go into a bar these days and take a poll when a fight's getting ready to come up, and a lot of people, they want to see the women's fights before the guys' fights, which is super cool. It should be like that. I mean, you have people who are just passionate about what they do. Like, I absolutely love what I do. I'm talented with it. Like, just because I'm a female, like, doesn't mean I can't kick somebody's butt. Like, why is it okay for you guys to kick somebody's butt, but for a female, it's not? And like, I think it's awesome that the growth that's there and everything that's happening and the love and support that's coming from it. I mean, you're always anything in life, there's always going to be opinions. People are going to stay old school with things or whatever and have their own ways about it, which is fine. Like everybody's entitled to their opinion, but definitely like it's definitely grown. And so, yeah, I would say like just the love and support that's come and women being able to be themselves out there. Because for the longest time, everybody was going out there and they were fighting 10 times harder just to prove something. I mean, we still do. A fight's a fight. Like you go out there and give it your best. But now there's like more of a balance going on.
Yeah, 100%. Well, look, Raquel, you're obviously one half of the dynamic duo with you and tiny Tecia Torres. How helpful has it been having a partner where not only understands the demands and commitments of the sport, but also having someone there 24/7 that lives that similar lifestyle where you can both grow in a technical sense and as people and as a couple?
It gets tough. A lot of people are just like, oh, it's funny because social media, like we don't post about each other 24/7. Everybody's like, oh, they broke up. Oh, this, and all the assumptions are there. And, with us, I think the hard part comes just because you have your average couple and everybody works their 9 to 5s and they go to 2 different places and they come home and might spend time together in the evening. And with Tecia and I mean, we're literally like living the same life, living the same career. And so it gets really hard. And we've had to find a balance there. Like we've had to separate some training sessions and, I've tried to get her to fight on cards before together, but she never wanted to. And then now we fought on 2 cards together and the coaches did really well. Like they separated us. Like we actually had our own hotel rooms and we basically treated it as our own fight weeks, which was super nice. And we could just kind of focus because at the end of the day, like it's her career and it's my career. And so, but we can be there to definitely support each other. Another challenge I think for us that's stemmed is Tecia is a walking anatomy chart. And like, I think people don't realize, like, I mean, she's very open about it, but I don't think people really pay attention. Like she eats like crap. She'll lay in bed at nighttime while watching TV and she has like Oreos resting on her chest and she's just eating them. And like, it makes me so mad. Like I barely look at a piece of bread and I gain weight. And so like, that was our biggest challenge at home is like finding a good balance in food. And just kind of supporting that aspect. But, as far as like fight week or like just the emotions in general or understanding how the body feels, like we definitely like get where recovery comes from, where the, like the emotions, it's this. And when you win and lose, like understanding how to just support each other and how we truly feel. And so it's been super cool, like we just live a really cool lifestyle and the fact that like we have our own schedules. And so it's like, okay, do we want to take time off from like training for the day and we want to go on an adventure? Sure. Like most people can't do that. And so, there's definitely pros and cons, but yeah, we've had our struggle through it. There's some days that I'm like, it works out too. Cause we can help each other. Like Tecia, even though she's smaller than me, like she's she has a lot of things that definitely benefit me, and like she can give to me and give me good looks with things, and vice versa, like me just being bigger than her and being able to be a really good partner for her and stuff. So that's definitely helped. But there are some days that it's like, all right, you're picking me off at home, like talk to me at the gym, and we're supposed to spar, and the coaches are like, no, we feel something going on here. You guys are not sparring today. So.
Yeah. The coaches don't want an episode of Jerry Springer going down in the gym. So, Raquel, obviously you've spent a lot of time training out of Triple Threat in Colorado Springs. Do you think working with a team that isn't as overcrowded with fighters and casual practitioners just trying to get on the mat, do you think that gives you the space and time with your coaches to not only develop those personal relationships with them, but to develop more as a mixed martial artist?
Absolutely. I've always been the athlete that I'm hands-on and I love one-on-one. So that's just how I am. Everybody's different on how they excel and grow. But I think one thing, like talking with Tecia, Tecia came from American Top Team and they have massive classes there. And so it's just like you got your pro classes or your wrestling classes, and it's just like 60 athletes on the mats with 2 coaches, and everybody's trying to like feed off of each other and see what the drills are. And like, I personally can't learn like that. And, like I said, having that conversation with her when she moved to Colorado and she started getting the one-on-one, like she was just like, I really love this. And I seen a difference in her game, and she just started to really excel. And so I do think it's important, not to mention, like, I'm not the athlete who I could just pick somebody every time and I'm like, oh, you're going to be in my corner. Like my coaches, like they're my second family. Like we've built a relationship. They know me as a person. They know me as an athlete. They know my strengths. They know my weaknesses. They know my expressions, my demeanor, everything. And like, we just have that relationship. And so it's like, there's so much that goes into it. And you get that at the low key gyms. And I love that. Like, I just love the vibe. Everybody's just like, it's so different. And, that's just my personal preference. And from all the athletes I've been around, it's the same thing, and it's cool because in Colorado, like we all just kind of have like, everybody goes into camp and we all kind of just support each other. So we're all putting together like small camps and that low key vibe, and it's just fun.
Raquel, look, you made your featherweight debut back in December of last year, where unfortunately your opponent missed weight. Would you ever like to venture back up to featherweight again if the division had some more contenders and fresh faces? Because unfortunately, the division, as everyone knows, doesn't move along as much as people would like. But if there were some more contenders and stuff at 145, would you ever consider moving back up?
Oh, absolutely. The weight cut was fantastic.
Yeah, I imagine.
I don't have to struggle, and I felt like a freaking powerhouse.
You were the one who could eat Oreos in bed.
Yeah, exactly. Then I can enjoy my Oreos like Tecia does. But yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. But in reality, like you said, there's no competition up there right now. It's not really a division. Like they made the division in the first place for Cyborg, and then now it played out the way that it did. So obviously, like if I want to prove that I'm the best in the world and whatnot, like I have to keep progressing in the 135 division. So I'm willing to fight both. People get fooled and they're like, oh, I call it my Mexi roll. But they're like, you have more weight to lose. And like, really, I'm just dense. Like, don't get fooled by my stomach and my Mexican jeans, because I cannot drop to 125. Because everybody's like, oh, you should drop to 125. I would literally die. Like, I'd have to cut like my leg off to make that weight.
Yeah, no, definitely for sure. So, look, Raquel, you are currently one of the elite fighters in the division, though, and riding a 4-fight win streak dating back to 2020, and winning 5 out of your last 6. Would you rather wait for the next title shot after the rematch of Pena and Nunes in August? And do you feel that you've done enough to get that title shot? Or if the UFC happened to go in a different direction with the title shot, is there a fight that sticks out to you in the division that you would want, such as perhaps trying to rebook Irene Aldana? As, of course, there's the risk that if Nunes wins, it will likely become a trilogy and the division could get held up for a bit of time.
Yeah, so as a competitor, I do want Juliana to win, and that takes a lot to say. But as a competitor, I do want her to win just for the fact that, like you said, the division can move forward. Because if that trilogy fight happens, who knows when they're going to schedule the next fight. As a friend and as a fan, I would rather Amanda win. But, regardless, whoever's the champion, like I want to revenge my loss against Amanda, and I do want to fight Juliana. I figured we would have fought back around the Ultimate Fighter time frame, but that never happened. And you know, I mean, I feel like I've been in the top 5 for years now. I got taken out over my dumb medical suspension with USADA, which was a super frustrating situation. They told me during that time they have to take you out of the rankings, and then they said they would have put me back in there. I got taken out as number 4. They put me back in as 10, and now it's like I've had to work my way back up. But I feel like I'm right there. And so, you know, I mean, Ketlin has some hype going behind her. And I think that fight would make sense for a title contention shot. But at the end of the day, like, I mean, my ultimate goal is to get that world title shot. And so I want things moving sooner rather than later. So we'll kind of see how it all plays out. But I think one more fight and I'm there, or at least 1 or 2. So it's not far.
100%. Well, look, Raquel, this is the last question from us, and we really, really appreciate you giving us some time today. It really means a lot to us.
Sure.
Our last question is: we've seen a lot more interest in mixed martial arts different rule sets across the organizations, like Demetrius Johnson and Rod Tang. Also, MMA fighters venturing into other sports such as boxing. Would you ever have any interest in testing your skill set in a singular aspect of mixed martial arts, such as boxing?
Absolutely. You know, one thing before I signed with the UFC, I actually fought professional boxing. So I actually am undefeated in boxing. And it is a lot different when you only have to focus on one aspect. So it would definitely be fun. I think that's the frustrating part when it comes to UFC, just because we're athletes, all of us. And they kind of just tie us up in our contracts and stuff. And it just, you know, if you got the big names like freaking McGregor and everything else, they let these guys do whatever they want. But for all of us other ones, like I know Tony Ferguson made the comment about like baseball, like we should be allowed to do it.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. And so, yeah, I would absolutely love it. I would love to go out there and just test my skills in all different aspects. And, you know, I mean, we only have one life to live. Being an athlete is a very short window. And so, yeah, I would definitely love it. I think that's something that UFC should probably start letting happen. So that way, everybody who's sitting on the sidelines, they're staying active in some shape or form, not just training and beating up their body. Like, I mean, MMA is taxing on the body. Anything is taxing on the body, but MMA is really taxing on the body. And you have these athletes who they're like, okay, we got to stay in shape, and then we got to help other athletes train, and then they're sparring constantly. And like, that's miles, you know what I mean? Like it's miles on your body. And so I think if somebody can step away, but still do something active and whatnot, and then come back to it, like, I think it would be pretty cool.
Well, look, Raquel, we really appreciate you giving us some time this morning. We can't wait to see your next fight. We hope you get the title shot in the near future this year, and we'd love to see you again soon. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good talking to you guys.
Thank you very much, Raquel.
Thanks very much.